Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. There are 3,500 people who registered for today's webinar, and I can't tell you how excited I am. As a matter of fact, this is the fourth time that I have this webinar, the fourth year that we have this in a row, which kind of makes us a tradition. And this is a tradition that I really love so it gives us a great opportunity to meet our amazing users. And this is also a great opportunity for you to come back to us with feedback, with comments, and with suggestions. As a matter of fact, a lot of the great tools that we will be showing you today are a result of last year's webinar, where you came back to us with a lot of questions, suggestions, and of course, we have our product team sitting here with me collecting all the feedback, so we are able to create a better product for you guys. Before we start, I also want to thank our amazing marketing team, mostly Varda, who leads our communication, for arranging these events every year. We always get good feedback on these events. So big thank you, Varda, who is sitting next to me, but because of the virtual background, we can't see her. And let's get started. 2021 was a very special year for everyone. It was a very different year. There were a lot of challenges and a lot of achievements. In terms of significant things that happened to TipRanks, the year started with us closing an amazing round of $80 million, which is almost 8 times more than we raised in our entire lifespan. And this is actually great news. This is great news for TipRanks, and this is great news to our users, because this is exactly the capital that will go on investing in our product, making it better, adding more features, making it more engaging, and of course, helping us send out the message to more people. We grew our team. We more than doubled our team. We started the year with 45 employees and finished it with 110 employees, which is a very big change for TipRanks. It was the first year where we had employees coming from countries such as Canada, India, and Croatia. So that was a big deal for us as well. We have created a news team, and we will soon look at the news, but we now have a news team of almost 30 full-time editors, journalists, and content creators. And we aspire to become the leading news service around the globe. This is a big challenge because we're entering an industry that has been running for hundreds of years, and still we're very ambitious. And we brought in the top performing bloggers from around the world. We poached editors from other very big websites. And you will see this year how much we will be investing to create the most real-time news and comprehensive news, not just for the US markets, but also for other markets as we plan to expand globally. We created a YouTube channel, and I highly recommend everyone to go to YouTube, to type TipRanks, and to subscribe to our channel. You're going to see a lot of exciting updates to our YouTube channel, from market updates, but also deep stock analysis on our YouTube channel. And these are exactly the news that matters. We've seen this over and over again. You will see the engagement that our viewers have on our videos. You will see hundreds of comments on every video. And our YouTubers are also very responsive, so they answer to all the questions that our users ask over there. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, I highly recommend you to. We broke a lot of records this year. We passed the 3 million monthly users, which is a huge achievement for a small startup from Israel that wanted to make a change and bring transparency into the capital markets. This, of course, also led to us raising a lot of capital and improving the tools. We were featured on Bloomberg TV because of our insights. It was we got the main article on Business Insider, who tracked our stats on insider activity. And for the first time in 9 years, we had a ceremony where we awarded the top analysts that we tracked from UK and from Canada and from the US. It was a very exciting event. It reached 60,000 views globally. And if next year is going to be easier to travel, then we're probably going to have a physical event as well. So let me share my screen so we can start to look on all the exciting things that our R&D and product team have worked so hard to develop. Let's go to TipRanks. Okay. So as you all know, we are more than just a news company. Our goal is to level the playing field for retail investors. And this is easier thing to say than actually do. This means that we need to look at all the tools that institutional investors have that they're spending millions of dollars a year on. And we need to figure out a way to make this accessible for retail investors, and usually for free as well, because our goal is to make as much capabilities for free and to level the playing field again for investors. We did it with the analyst ratings, where we were the first and only one to make this available to users. And this was a big challenge that took us a long time. And now our goal is to do the exact same thing with other alternative data sets. These are data sets that aren't derived from the reportings of companies, but they're collected from a lot of other resources external to the company's reporting, but they can tell you a lot about what a company is going to report. One of the tools that we're most proud of is a tool that tracks the traffic on public websites. So let's say you go to a company like Netflix. You can see what analysts are predicting the company to report, and that by itself is a very valuable data set. You can see what any analyst said from any bank. You can get a stock analysis with our smart score on it. But if you're a hedge fund, then you can access some other very cool stuff that can give you an idea of what a company will report. One of them is the activity on Netflix. So if I could tell you how many visitors or users went on Netflix before the company actually reported, then you will have a good idea on what the company will report. Now, this is something that we do. And until we made this available earlier in 2021, no other company, retail investor had access to it. So if you go to a stock page, so anybody that isn't on mute, please mute itself so everybody can hear me clearly. But when you go to the Netflix stock page, you can click on the website traffic tab. It's here on the bottom left. And this chart will actually show you how many visitors went on Netflix.com through mobile or through the website every month. Now, why is it important? The rationale is actually simple. If you know that Netflix had many more visitors going to Netflix, then obviously you can assume that the company will report more sales because they probably had more subscribers. So we can see, for instance, that in December 2021, Netflix had 1.1 visitors on their website. And in November, for instance, they had also 1.1. It didn't really move, but if you went back to January, for instance, they had 1.6. Pardon, can you mute everyone? Okay. So this is one way to look at it, on a monthly basis, but you can also look at it on a quarterly basis. So if you looked at Q4, you would have seen that there was a 13% drop from Q3. Now, this is something that you knew in January 8th, 2 weeks before Netflix actually reported. If you want to compare this, not just to recent quarters, but to recent years as well, you simply need to click down here to the year over year. You can see when you click on this that Netflix had 25% less visitors. It had 3.3 billion visits to Netflix this quarter, Q4 2021. And last year in Q4 2020, it had 4.4 billion visitors. This is a very big drop of 25%. And guess what? When the company reported, they reported that their sales dropped, slowed down, and the stock fell 25% as well. There is a very strong correlation between the visits on an online business and to the performance of the stock. Now, obviously, when you look at enterprise companies, if you look at Oracle, for instance, or companies that are focused on selling to other businesses, then this data set would be less impactful and less significant. But if you're investing in companies such as streaming companies or social media or online businesses, this is exactly the tool that will give you an edge and will show you what can you expect the company to report. So for instance, if you look at another company, let's look at Coinbase, right? Coinbase is an online broker for crypto. And obviously, if it has more users, then it's going to have a positive report. And if it has less users, it's going to have a negative report. So now we're at Coinbase page. And if you click on the website traffic, and you choose the quarterly one, you can see that this is a quarter that wasn't reported yet. You can see that it actually reports in 10 days from today. You can see that in Q4, there were almost 50% more visitors than there were in Q3. Now, if you compare it to year over year, you can also see that in Coinbase, there were 112% more users in Q4 this year in 2021 than there was in 2020. Now, I'm actually happy that we chose a stock that didn't report yet, because this is exactly where you can validate the strength of this tool. You can also check companies that have already reported, such as Robinhood and others, just to see that there is a strong correlation between this data set and the performance of the stock. Now, if you ask me, it is a matter of time, maybe a year, maybe 5 years, until regulators step in and say, you know what, companies cannot use this data because it is equivalent to inside trading. If you know how many visitors a company had before the company actually reports, then you're doing an unfair use with inside information. And we would, by the way, agree with the regulator, but as long as hedge funds are getting this data, our goal is that you will get this data as well. So this is one tool. It's extremely significant, and we're so proud to be the first one to make it available to retail users. We really hope that other websites will follow our steps as the innovator in this space and will make this available as well, until there is real transparency into the market. If you want to get even more out of this tool, let's say you don't have a specific idea for a stock and you're looking for ideas, you can click here to see the companies that have been growing fastest. And this will take you to a unique screener where you can actually see those ideas. And you can start looking for different companies, and you can look at categories. So for instance, you can look at e-commerce websites and video games websites and social media. Choose these sectors, and it will show you the fastest growing ones in the space. You can choose to look at companies only where traffic grew only on their mobile devices, or all devices, or only on desktop. This is for advanced investors. And you can also compare the total amount of visits and unique visitors, which is something different. Unique visitors are unique people who came, for instance, to Netflix, and visits can be the same person who returned multiple times. So this is a product that we invested a lot of resources in, a lot of time, and we hope we reached a product market fit. And we encourage you to try it and use it. You will not find anything equivalent to it on the web. You have my word on that. So that is one tool, and that is a tool we're very proud of. Another tool that we created that we are the first one to launch, and if you were on my webinar last year, you could have probably hear me talk about it because it was being planned that time, is a risk analysis tool. So what is risk analysis? Let's look at a company like Spotify. When you go to the stock page on Spotify, you go to the bottom to where it says more tools. You click here, and here you can click on risk analysis. So if you are a public company, such as Spotify, for instance, every time you report on a yearly report or on a quarterly report, you need to have a specific section called risk factors. What is risk factors? Risk factors is a way for a company to disclose everything that can impact the business, and more importantly, it can impact the stock. And so if you work as a compliance in one of those companies, you want to make sure that everything that makes the management to lose sleep at night is being disclosed in the risk factors. Usually it would be 50-page long, and it's a list of ongoing disclosures that nobody bothers to read, because who has the attention span to read 50 pages of boring disclosures? Now, if you're a hedge fund and you have tens of billions of dollars under management, you do have the capacity to read that because you understand how important it is and how important it is to read between the lines. But if you are a retail investor and you have limited time, you're not going to waste it on reading all the small risks that companies disclose. On top of that, this is a list that keeps going on, and you have no idea which risk is new, which risk has been there in these reports for 10 or 20 years. And this is where TipRanks comes in. We developed a technology based on machine learning that knows how to read these risks and actually classifies it into 6 different categories: finance and corporate, tech and innovation, the ability of a company to sell, legal and regulatory risks, production risk, and macro and political risks. Now, each category has a subcategory as well. So let's say you want to look at tech and innovation, you're going to see that they have 10 risks that they have disclosed on tech and innovation. Some are trade secrets, some are cybersecurity risks. If you go back and you choose, for instance, legal and regulatory, you can see that you have regulation, which is kind of compliance risk. You have litigation and legal liabilities. You have taxation and government. And basically what we do is we try to simplify and visualize the risk that companies show. And guess what? We make it available for free. You can see here a chart of change over time. You can see when a company has changed risks, when have they added risks, when have they reduced risks. You can roll over each quarter to see what happened. And you know what? If you would have bothered to go through the risks of Spotify, you would have seen exactly the risk that Spotify are now talking about and that Spotify investors are now paying for. So for instance, you can see here which risks were added or removed. You can see that they added a few new risks on finance and corporate about their ability to sell. We are subject to payment-related risks. Many times they can't process credit cards. This is a risk that most users are unaware of. And you can actually, you can see the benchmark of how risky is a company on different sectors compared to other companies. So actually you can see that Spotify isn't very risky. They have changed their risk list than other websites and they disclose less risks than other websites. And you can see the actual breakdown of all the risks, finance and corporate. And this is exactly an area where you can break down these 50 pages and read it in a way that is easy to digest. For instance, you can click on the legal and regulatory and click here on litigation and legal liabilities. And here is an interesting risk that they just disclosed that no one bothered reading. We may be subject to disputes or liabilities associated with content made available on our service. And if you actually read this paragraph, you can understand that they're concerned that people like, let's say, Joe Rogan or other performance on Spotify may take a side on big conflicts such as COVID, and that can cost them a lot of money. So this is the risk analysis tab that we've been developing. I can also give you a spoiler that in the next 2 days, this tool is going to change because we've received a lot of feedback from our users over the last few weeks. And we have actually over the last few months on how we can improve this. And so if you will visit this page by, let's say, Thursday, assuming that there's going to be some more delays, then you are going to see a much more convenient user interface for you to use. So 2 of the biggest things that we've developed in 2021 are the risk analysis and the website traffic analysis. On top of that, one thing that bothered a lot of our users, and we're happy that we have finally launched, is an Android app, which went out in January 2021 and is now available. So if you had Android and were disappointed that you can't see what the top analysts in the world are saying about your portfolio, now you can. And if you have an iPhone, you always could, and I highly recommend you to download our app and try it out. Some other tools that we added the dividend calculator, so you can go to the research tool. And by the way, we changed the entire navigation. We try to simplify it for our users. So now you can easily find research tools. You can easily go to a top stock. This is where you can find all the tools that allow you to find investment ideas. We have also added a tool called penny stocks. We've seen a lot of people search our search bar and actually search for the term penny stocks, even though you couldn't have done this because we only show tickers. And we realized that a lot of our users are looking for penny stocks. Now, as a full disclosure, I'm not a big believer in penny stocks. I think they're too risky. At least they're too risky for my level of pressure. But if you are into penny stocks, here is probably the best utility out there to allow you to find them. You can sort it out by market cap, by their smart score, by what analysts are saying, and by analyst price target and upside. You can click here on each one of those tabs. To see the highest. So here, for instance, Galmed Pharmaceutical, which is interesting. It's a company sitting not too far from our offices. You can see that they have a 1,500% upside. So it's just a great and easy way to browse penny stocks and find investment ideas if you're into penny stocks. We added a few pages of market movers if you want to see what are the stocks that are most active, the top losers, the top gainers, and of course, the smart score for these stocks, which is what many of our users come to TipRanks to look for. On top of that, we added a tool that allows you, some of you that have been with us for a while, remember that we have our smart portfolio, and we're going to talk about that as well because that's one of the most popular tools on TipRanks. But we received a lot of complaints from users that every time they want to follow stocks, they have to add it to a smart portfolio. So what we did is we created a standalone watch list, which you can reach either from here or from the tab of Smart Portfolio. And this allows you to manage stocks that you simply want to follow. You don't necessarily have them, but you might want to. And the reason this is so convenient is because you can easily follow them here. You can see all the interesting events that happen with these stocks. If there are new analysts that gave new ratings, if there are interesting news related to the stocks, if any blogger top blogger has made a recommendation, if any corporate insider has made a transaction, you can easily see it here. You can decide if you want to get email alerts or not. Many of our users do not want to get email alerts. They find it annoying, and we completely understand that. So we made the email alerts as default shut down, and this is where you can decide you want to get email alerts. Now, let's say you want to get email alerts, but you don't want to get a lot of them. You click here on the Alert Center, and this is where you can easily manage all the alerts on your watch list and portfolio. So you can see that I'm following 7 stocks and 3 experts. And you can see that I'm getting alerts, but if I wanted to shut them down, I would simply disable it here. And because I don't like getting alerts every 5 minutes, I prefer to get 1 email per day. But if I wanted to get real-time alerts, I could simply click it here. And if you do click here and you're getting a lot of alerts, then this is exactly where you need to change the settings. As some of you know, we also send the weekly digest of your portfolio where you can see how every investor performed, how does it perform compared to other investors. And here you can decide which types of alerts you're actually interested in. So this is a new interface where you can easily set the exact alerts that you're interested in. So this is another big development that took a lot of our time. By the way, you can also easily see which experts you're following. So as you can see, I like following usually Wall Street analysts. I also follow myself, and I follow some top performing individual investors. This is a feature from last year where we enabled our own users to make their profile public, those who choose to, and allow other people to follow them and follow their footsteps. So this is where you can see all the experts that you're following. And if you want to see your watch list, this is where we started. You click on the My Watch List. So we created this center, which we are very proud of. And based on the usage, we probably did a pretty good job with it because it's a very popular area on our website. Now, I started today was talking about how excited I am around the news. This is a new area that we weren't very active on before. If you go into Yahoo Finance or to CNBC or the NASDAQ, you probably saw a lot of our news, but that was more of our blog. And we noticed that a lot of the big websites use our content. And slowly we realized that there are a lot of users that are coming to TipRanks just for our news, because they are based on research of analysts and because we tend to go out with news that have strong impact on the market, we decided to invest a lot in the news. So if you click here on the news area, you're going to see that we have a lot of news. We produce more than 70 original stories every day, including what top analysts are saying. We have also created a community of 100 contributors. So it's actually quite funny. For the last 9 years, we've been measuring the bloggers from all over the world, from Seeking Alpha, from Motley Fool, from Zacks, from anywhere that people give investment advice. Our mission as a company that created the first financial accountability engine was to actually measure the performance of these experts so you can know who you can trust. What we did in 2021 is we reached out to the top bloggers from around the world and offered them to join TipRanks and to provide content to TipRanks. And this is exactly where you can find analysis from the top bloggers out there. That is on top of our large team of news writers and editors. So you go to news and you can see here deep insights. You can also see breaking news here on the top. You can focus on dividend news if you like, or penny stock news, or crypto stocks. Basically, we tend to choose trending topics and to create a news area around those topics alone. So this is a short recap of what we did in 2021, and we really hope that you will benefit from everything that we've invested in. And this is way before we've actually deployed all the money that we raised to invest in the big things for you in 2022. So what are our plans for 2022? The first area that we plan to invest in is more news and content. We want to expand TipRanks globally. Today, you will see news on the US, Canada, and you can see our data for the UK. But by the end of the year, we will also have a lot of European markets available on TipRanks. We plan to get into India, and we plan to get into Australia as well. So we're planning to expand globally. This is a very big activity that requires a lot of our focus. And so we hope we do this correctly, but we aspire to be a global household name. And for that, we're going to put a lot of resources on covering more and more markets. Now, this also takes us to the smart portfolio. For those who use us, you probably have a smart portfolio. You probably linked our smart portfolio to your broker. And a lot of the questions and requirements and requests that we've been given from our users is, why doesn't the smart portfolio support other assets? Why doesn't it support new markets like the UK market? Why doesn't it support crypto? Why doesn't it support fractional shares? Why doesn't it support additional assets or different currencies? And there is a great news on that front, because we've been investing the last year and a half to make the smart portfolio, which is already one of the most popular tools for the investor community. We plan to very soon, in the next month and a half, to release a version where it will support all these requirements and requests coming from our users. So in Q1, by the end of this quarter, we hope to have our smart portfolio out where you will have fractional shares. You will support many new markets. So you can add stocks from UK and from Germany, and you can add crypto, and you can see our portfolios in different currencies. And I hope that it would bring a lot of value to many users who felt they didn't get enough value from this specific tool. But this is actually deeper than that. Going global is a very big thing for us. It's something that we've been waiting for a long time, and we needed to build the infrastructure to actually make that happen. So two areas that we're focused on is the smart portfolio, and that's just around the corner. We've been investing a lot of time on that, and it's very close to be ready. I was actually tempted to show you the staging environment today so you can get a taste of how it would look like. But I decided that it's still a bit buggy, and I can only say that it looks much better, and it is very powerful. And one of the other things about it is that you can today measure your own performance on the smart portfolio. But the way we measure it is we start measuring every stock that you have added to your portfolio, and soon we will allow you to choose how you want to be measured and ranked. So we will have a validated ranking, where this is how we measured you based on when you opened it on TipRanks, and we can have the unvalidated performance, where this is based on the dates and stock purchase price that you as a user have entered. So the entire ranking of our own users is going to go through a very big shift, and that's something that I know many of you have been waiting for. Another area that we're getting into is TipRanks TV. So very soon we will be launching a new TV area on TipRanks. There is a lot of original content, a lot of original magazines. We will cover. Some of them include Green Wall Street, where we will be discussing on all the new trends coming from Green Wall Street. We will have magazines around crypto. We are having a lot of influencers and actually famous people that will be joining TipRanks, both from Hollywood and from the political space, who will be joining and having talk shows on TipRanks. We will have our morning updates. We will have the afternoon updates. And we really hope that people can enjoy all the video content, because we see how successful it is on our YouTube channel. Going back to TipRanks, but this is another big thing we are investing in. We will add many more crypto pages. We have added Bitcoin and Ether in 2021, and we've seen a lot of our users enjoying these pages and visiting them. And so we plan to add basically every popular coin out there. We plan to add analysis and unique pages for those coins. We plan to invest a lot in other assets, such as ETF and mutual funds. This is an area that we've been behind for a very long time, and our users have indicated that they're missing deep analysis on mutual funds and ETFs, and many of them need to compromise on other services that do not provide insight. So this is another area that we will be investing in. And if we actually meet all our goals for this year, by the end of the year, we're also supposed to have technical analysis tools with advanced charting for all the different assets that we will be adding. So this is these are the big things that are planned for this year. We're already in February tomorrow, and this year has been it's only been a month, but I can already tell that this is going to be a crazy year for TipRanks in terms of the amount of users coming in, and of course the fact that we have so many new employees that are driving value. And so I'm excited to see. I can't actually wait to see how this webinar goes next year, and if we will really meet all the goals that we set to ourselves. So what I want to do now is I want to cover some of the questions that were sent to us. So let's see, what do we have? A lot? Okay, so we have a lot of questions, and I really hope that we are able to cover all of them. So let's start. Ken asks, have we tested accuracy of Smart Score and how it compares to indexes? This is a great question. As you all know, TipRanks, the first thing that we do is actually measure everything that we have. So if you look at a stock, let's say Amazon, you can see here when you go to the Smart Score, and I hope I get this right. Let's close a few tabs. So this is a Smart Score, and you can learn more about the Smart Score here. And when you go here, you can actually see the performance of the Smart Score compared to the S&P 500. Now, this is actually updated on a daily basis. So when you look at it, you can see that 2022. So first of all, you can see that we outperformed the S&P 500 by 55% over the last 5 years. You can see that when there was a dip in March 2020, when COVID hit, we underperformed the S&P, and the gap was almost closed. But all in all, we outperformed the S&P by about 11%. And this, Correct. Okay. Now this is, so hold on, we want to understand where this noise is coming from. So great question again. And by the way, this goes to other tools that we have as well. One of the most popular tools on TipRanks is actually the Insider's Hot Stocks. And you can see here different strategies, and some of them perform extremely well. But you can see that, many times they underperform. So for instance, in 2021, this strategy, which is one of our best strategies, underperformed the S&P. And, that's life. Overall, we outperform. Sometimes we underperform, but we're always very transparent about it. That is exactly what we're most proud of. So next question, Ray asks, how many stocks do we have website data for? So our current universe is around 11,000 stocks. These include US, Canada, and UK. And we plan to grow that significantly. In the next month and a half, we will have DAX data, that is a German exchange. And there will be another 4,000 stocks that we cover. And by the end of the year, we're probably going to double the amount of stocks that we cover. And that's one thing. The other thing is that we're going to add other assets as well, ETFs, mutual funds, and crypto. So I think that we probably cover every stock that is available, like including over-the-counter stocks and others. Roy asks, can we have better charting plus technical analysis? Absolutely, Roy, you are right. And we had this question last year, which is why we're trying to squeeze technical analysis for TipRanks this year as well. We were thinking, what can we do special? Because there are so many tools out there for technical analysis, and it would be unresponsible from us to assume that we can simply reinvent this entire space like we reinvented the alternative data space. But what we can do much better and plan to do much better is take the key features from technical analysis and allow our users to add layers of TipRanks' unique data sets. So not only can you see the technical analysis, the basics of it, but you can also see the impact of different events, such as analyst ratings from Goldman Sachs, for instance, or when there's a big informative transaction by a corporate insider or a big hedge fund movement. And so I think that's where our strength is, and that's where we're going to focus on when we will be adding the technical analysis tool. So Bob asks, does TipRanks have text message rather than email? What types of alerts are available for ultimate users? So we do have, if you use our app, you can get push notifications, and we have email alerts. We do not have text messages. This is actually the first time that I get this at the request, but I'm happy that I see two product managers of ours on this call. And so maybe they can look into it and put a survey to see what is the need for that. But very interesting. And I want to thank you, Bob, for bringing this up. Dan would like component performance of major indexes by stocks and sector, day, month, quarter, and year to date. So I'm not sure I understand what Dan means, but one of the things that we've added this year, and I can tell you that it is expensive, is we added real-time indexes. So we can actually go to TipRanks and you can see the NASDAQ in real time, you can see the Dow Jones, you can see the S&P, you can even click on each one of them to get real-time stats. You can see actually the components of each one of the stocks in NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500. You can see the smart score of them, and I think that we're pretty unique on that front. You can also see one of the things that we've added here is the highest upside potential, the lowest upside potential, and the average price target, which is also very unique for TipRanks. I also vaguely remember that we added another feature here that also shows you what are the multiples of each index. It's probably here somewhere. I haven't looked into this recently. And what are the multiples and where is it on a 10-year benchmark so we can understand if we're inside a bubble or not. So I hope that answered your question, Dan. If not, feel free to explain again, and we will try to address that. Ian asked, does website traffic includes app usage as well? Great question, Ian. It does not include app usage, but it does include mobile web. meaning that if you use Netflix through the app, we have no way to measure that. And as a retail investor myself, and as a human who appreciates privacy, I'm actually happy that there is no way to measure that. But if you go to Netflix through your mobile, through a browser, then it does measure that. There was another question? Okay. Ramon asked about adding Brazilian stock market. So the idea is to expand globally. We're probably going to add Latin America to our website at some point. We do not have plans to add Latin America in 2022, but there is a very good chance that we will see all these markets added in 2023. How the best rated stocks have performed. Ray asked, do you illustrate how the best rated stocks have performed? Yes, we do. I've shown that before with the Smart Score, so I hope that answered your question. Jack asked. I'm a value investor and an equity trader. How can I use TipRanks as a value investor? What can I do as an equity trader? I'm an ultimate user, but feel there is much that I'm missing. How can Smart Score help? Great question. I'll tell you what I do as a value investor. I have many portfolios, many smart portfolios. One of them is for growth stocks. One of them is for Israeli stocks. One is my real portfolio. And one is for value stocks. So I have a portfolio which I follow with companies like AT&T or Pfizer and many others, dividend-paying companies. And this is just a great way for me to track all these specific stocks and to see what the top analysts are saying about them, which ones have the highest Smart Score, etc. You can also go on the research tool, you can go to a tool that we have called Stock Comparison. And you can basically, maybe we even have a predefined list. So we do not have one, but you can create a new one here. You can create a list of value stocks and simply compare them. So let's shut this down. Okay, you can simply click clear. Now let's choose AT&T. And let's say Verizon. And I'm just choosing here together with you. And let's say we choose Pfizer. And there are probably other value stocks that we're looking at. This is a very convenient way to compare them. Both compare their performance over time, but compare their Smart Score, compare their analyst consensus. And if it is more convenient, you can download it to Excel and basically import that into your own models if you have any. So this is how I use TipRanks for that matter. I just get all the data that I need for a predefined list of stocks. But one thing that we can probably easily do is create a list here where you can click on for the most popular value stocks. And that's a good idea and that we will look into. For instance, you can click here on the NFT stocks. So you can find ideas of companies in the NFT space, or you can look at green energy stocks. But I think it is great that you brought us value stocks that we can do that as well. As for equities trader, that's an interesting question because a lot of the data that we have is for long-term investment. So analysts, for instance, they give a 12-month price projection. Website traffic, it's good for a quarter. But what do you do on a one-day, if you're a swing trader or a day trader? One of the tools that we found most interesting for day traders is actually news sentiment. So I don't know how many of you are aware of our news sentiment tool, but if you go to a stock, let's say Plug, you have a tab here that, in opposed to other websites that will show you news on the stock, which of course we also have, this is where we actually tell you what is the news sentiment today on a stock. So we can tell you how many articles are published, what is the overall sentiment, is it positive or negative, and what is the media buzz, how many articles were published compared to usually. Now, why is this interesting for traders? Because we found that news sentiment is very indicative to daily performance, in opposed to analyst ratings or the Smart Score, which is indicative to a more long-term investment horizon. Other than that, you would probably want to wait for our technical analysis tools in order to get even more signals that work for traders. Okay, I'll take a few more questions. So Bijan request, please add save to my holdings plus my watch list. What is that? Please add save feature.
Yeah, whenever they log in, they don't see their.
Okay, so if you went to your watch list and you do not see it, it probably means that you are not signed up to the website. So many times you're going to go from one browser and then go through another browser. If you are logged in, you can simply go here on the top and log in, create an account. If you have an account on TipRanks, we will always save your watch list and portfolio. And if you are logged in and you enter stocks and then you log in again and you don't see them, please reach out to our support because this is obviously a bug and we're not aware of it, or you are using different emails for different browsers. In June 2020, GME traded at 14 a share. Can we see what their risk factors were then? Sure. So GME, let's do this together. So GME is now $34 a share. Back then they traded at 14. At 4. Okay, $4 a share. If you go to their risk factors then, risk analysis, 2020, let's go here. And here is where they added their first risk analysis that they added. You can see that in Q1, they haven't changed anything. And then in Q2, they added a new risk. You can see that they added one new risk of finance and corporate. A new risk is here, sorry. So the indenture governing our 2023 senior notes and our revolving credit facility restrict our current and future operation, particularly our ability to respond to changes or to take certain actions or take advantage of certain business opportunities. This is one risk that they've added, and I don't want to spend a lot of time going through this, but this is how you can basically find it and read the entire risk and what it entails. And you can also see that they made a few changes here. So this is a risk that they changed. You can see the changes. You can compare the old text to the new text. You can see that to service our indebtedness, we will require a significant amount of cash. We may not be able to generate sufficient cash flow to meet our debt service obligation or refinance our debt. So you can see that their main concerns were debt, and their other risk was also related to debt. But to save everyone's time for you, the best way is to simply go to this chart, choose a quarter that you want to focus on to see what were their concerns back then, and you can easily read it here. You can see that in Q4 they had a completely new set of risks that were added. They suddenly added 15 risks. You can see how it jumped from an average of 35 risks to 45 risks here, and this is all the risks that they disclosed here. The market price of our Class A common stock has been extremely volatile and may continue to be volatile due to numerous circumstances beyond our control. A short squeeze due to a sudden increase in demand for shares of our Class A common stock that largely exceeds supply has led to and may continue to lead to extreme price volatility. Right, so you can see that after all the meme stock frenzy, their concerns shifted from debt and to we have no control over the price of our stocks. It's interesting to read. But obviously what happened to GameStop has nothing to do with their risk analysis, and they realized they have many different risks after everything took off on Reddit. Bob wants to see how to find top dividend stocks. Okay, so top dividend stocks, let's do this. So we can go to compare stocks, we go to research tools, and here you can go, first of all, you can click on the dividend calculator, but you can go to the stock comparison. And in the stock comparison, you can go to dividend stocks. And here you can, hold on, it didn't show us the dividend stocks. Okay, here you can compare the dividend stocks. You can compare the dividend yield. You can sort them by their yield. You can sort them by the SMART score, which are the top. So you can basically see that these are the top dividend stocks, those that have the highest SMART score. If there are companies that you're not interested in, let's say you do not want to invest in Chevron, you don't want to invest in the energy sector, you can simply remove it. And if you have other companies you want to compare, So let's say, you know, you want to see Verizon, how Verizon compared to the list that was compiled here. You add Verizon, and you will add it here to the list at the bottom. It will load in a second. And of course, you can compare their performance over time as well. You can decide what you want to add and remove. So you can compare their fundamentals, their price target, and the TipRanks Smart Score here. If you want to read trending dividend news, you can go to our news area and read news related to dividend stocks. And I can also give you a spoiler that part of our plan to add videos, there is a TV series around dividend investments and REIT investments. So there's going to be a lot of exciting content for dividend investors and value investors. So there are more questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so a few more questions. Nor asks, were TipRanks users affected by the Plaid data breach? No, we were not affected by the Plaid data breach. And it is important to mention that the security standards that TipRanks takes are the highest standards out there. And that basically it is practically impossible to connect from, you know, as a hacker, from the information that you will see on Plaid and the information that you see on TipRanks. So we were not affected. We were not informed on any breach from Plaid that there was any risk to our users. Okay, you want to give me that last? Okay, so 4 last questions. And if there are more questions, by the way, I encourage you to send them over. And usually what we do is after these webinars, we create a few articles with a lot of the questions and answers, so all the users who couldn't make it to this webinar could read them as well. If you send questions following this webinar, we will make sure to answer them as well. So Rachel asked if you can elaborate on how we can know if we are in a bubble. That's a good question. And there is no real way to know when you're in a bubble. You usually know you're in a bubble when the bubble bursts. I mean, one way that usually investors, mostly institutional investors, can indicate we're in the bubble when you look at the multiples. So we try to resolve that looking at the indexes and showing you where are we in terms of the ratio. But again, oh, here you go. So for instance, you can go here and look at the P ratio. You can see that now we're in a P ratio of 30. You can see that we're now at 30. The maximum that we had was in May 2009, following the 2008 crisis. That was 123. And in 1980, the average PE multiple was 6.79. So you can see that you're somewhere in the middle of the scale. Of course, if you compare it to the last 5 or 6 years, the multiple is higher than the average. But this is, you know, there is not, like, no one can, the thing is that when you're in a bubble, you don't know when the bubble will end. I think that, you know, there is a consensus that stocks are overpriced, but the fact that they are now overpriced doesn't mean that they're not going to be much more overpriced in the next few years. So the only way that we can really look at it is in terms of straight up multiples. What is the ratio between the earnings and the price of the stocks currently, and how does it compare historically? So Bob asked, how can we track new metaverse stocks? So these are a lot of great questions, and yeah, I realize that they all take us straight to the compare stock. So we go again to the compare stock, and here you can basically click on where it says metaverse. I hope we have that. Metaverse stocks. And here you can track the most popular metaverse stocks. Just like we track the dividend stocks and where you can track the EV stocks and dividend stocks and biotech stocks. I realize how important this tool is. Okay, so Sheldon asks, which is more compelling? A stock that has a smart score of 10 or a stock that has a strong buy? This is a great question. Over time, a smart score with 10 performs better than a strong buy stocks. If there are less top smart score stocks than there are strong buy stocks. But again, many times you need to dive into, when you look at the smart score, basically what we do is we take a lot of different factors and we factor them into one score. When you look at a strong buy stock, then many times it makes sense to also read the reasoning behind the ratings of the analysts. But if you ask me on a personal level, I would go with a smart score of 10 than I would with a strong buy stocks. Mitchell asks, is the new smart portfolio going to support shorts and options? This is a great question, and unfortunately, because there is so much, like the scope of the smart portfolio was so big, and we really wanted to release it while we're still young. We decided not to support short and not to support options. We were originally hoping to support short sales as well, and it's probably going to be in phase 2. So there's a good chance that in Q2 we will have the option to support short sales on the smart portfolio. And by the way, everything that is going to be in the smart portfolio is also going to be in our mobile app. Last question? Okay, last question for today. I really like TipRanks Ultimate. Can we have training of all we can do with it? I'm so happy that you asked it. Who asked this question?
I lost the name.
Okay, we lost the name. So whoever asked this question, this is a great question. In 2 weeks, we're going to have bi-weekly webinars where we will be focusing, our premium and ultimate users will have access to these webinars, and we will be training our users on all the long tail of features that we have, because what we realized is that we keep adding features that no one else has, but our users suddenly lost track. There are so many features. How can you find everything? We try to resolve that by creating a more convenient navigation, but obviously a lot of our users are still unaware of that. So in 2 weeks, we're going to have Isaac from our team who is going to do bi-weekly webinars to all our users, and is going to focus each webinar on 2 different unique research tools. So thanks for adding that, and I should have added that myself. So I guess this concludes today's webinar, which was awesome. Like the questions that you asked are so good. I feel I'm in a product meeting. And I really hope that by the end of the year, we're going to have so many new surprises and cover a lot of the things that you've asked for. If you did not have a chance to send your questions, feel free to send them, and we will make sure to answer them in our upcoming question and answer series. And other than that, expect to get a nice gift from us for those who register to our webinar. And I want to thank you again for being a TipRanks user. It is so exciting for me to see the faces behind all our users. And I hope that you are enjoying our service. So have a wonderful year and a wonderful day or evening, depending on where you are. And we will all see you soon.